Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Crazy Frankie, and I'd like to welcome you to my NFL Wild Card Playoff Game Picks. Alright, it's finally here. The playoffs have arrived. Now, before I get into my playoff picks, now as we talk about the teams that are in the tournament here, I know a lot of you are probably going to ask me who do I like in to probably go to the Super Bowl and win it. Well, like I said, right now the playoffs just starting. So, but I do have a couple things I could keep in mind as I bring this up now before I talk about the wild card games. Now, as these games begin this weekend, now I could say a couple of things here of who I consider maybe dangerous teams right now. Let's begin in the AFC. Well, in all honesty, between the 6 teams that are in, the only dangerous team I really see in the NFL playoffs is really the New England Patriots. I mean, they've been there before. I know a lot of you are going to say, well, this team is banged up. They're injured. They're hurt. How can you say they're the most dangerous team? In my honest opinion, the Patriots seem to turn it on in the playoffs. They seem to get the mojo going, and they are really, really very a team to be contend with come during the playoffs. Now, I know they are suffering with injuries at the moment, but keep in mind, though, this is a team that's been there so many times before. Knowing Belichick, Brady, and I know that Gronkowski's been in there. So yeah, I mean, this is a team I would not count out to go to the Super Bowl. They got to be the most dangerous team now. Because I know a lot of you said, well, Pittsburgh was probably the most dangerous team that nobody wants to play. But in all honesty, the way they played towards the end of the season, I don't consider them a threat. They also are banged up with injuries right now, and it's becoming a factor now, especially Roethlisberger's turning the ball over. I don't consider them dangerous. Denver, I don't see much of a threat, but possibly they're a team that you probably would not want to face in Denver. But as far as all the other AFC teams goes, I wouldn't be too concerned right now. But especially if you're a Patriots fan, I still think this is the team to beat in the AFC, and more likely probably could end up going to Super Bowl 50. We don't know about that yet. Okay, we'll wait and find out what happens in the divisional round, because let's look at the key factors right now. The Broncos and Patriots have the byes in the AFC, so they don't play till next weekend. In the NFC, now there's a lot to talk about. Now, I still say, and I agree with a lot of the football experts, that the Seahawks, I consider them a dangerous threat, especially now that they're getting back Marshawn Lynch for this weekend's playoff game. That is going to be a huge factor come the playoffs. And I definitely agree with them that this is a team I do not want to face come playoff time right now. As far as other teams are concerned, I don't know if Green Bay is really up to the task right now. They're dealing with injuries, and Aaron Rodgers is playing very poorly right now. Minnesota could not have come at a worse time when you have to play Seattle. As far as the 1 and 2 seeds go, and speaking of the Panthers and the Cardinals right now, I think the Cardinals may be the more bigger threat than the Panthers. The reason why I'm saying that is that the way the Panthers are playing right now, they're playing with a lot of cockiness. And the way that Cam Newton is getting his team, they're getting pretty cocky right now. I think that's going to get them in a whole mess of trouble, even though they finally lost the game and they don't have to worry about a perfect season. But I don't know. They're getting very cocky, and that could be trouble. That could be trouble right now. But we'll wait and see when both the Panthers and the Cardinals play in the divisional round next weekend. But right now, our focus is now on the wild card games. All right, let's talk about the 4 wild card games. Let's begin in the AFC. AFC wild card game number 1, the Kansas City Chiefs against the Houston Texans. The Chiefs are a 3.5-point favorite in this one, and I agree. The Texans right now, quarterback problems and issues right now. When you had you had quarterback issues all season long, and this is a team, even though despite barely winning the division by default, the way Kansas City's playing right now, they're playing with enormous confidence right now, and this probably may be the less interesting playoff game of the weekend. I pretty much in an agreement with that. I think this is a game. This is probably the less likely interesting playoff game of the weekend. The way the Kansas City's playing now, they're running the ball pretty well, even though they don't have Jamal Charles at quarterback. But really, Alex Smith is playing pretty good right now, and their offense is able to score some points. And I really like them in this game. There's no question. I like the Kansas City Chiefs in this one here. The Texans, we don't know what we're going to get out of this team. Especially the way that they had to juggle around quarterbacks all season long. And I don't know if this team is ready for this. This is obviously probably the easiest pick of the weekend here. I'm going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs here. The Chiefs over the Texans. AFC wildcard game number 2. The Steelers against the Bengals. Now, this one could not be any more of a toss-up here. The Steelers are a 3-point favorite in this game. Tough to say with the way the Steelers have played towards the end of the season, even though they were lucky to get in. But when you have an offensive line that's pretty banged up and no running game at all, and especially with Roethlisberger putting on the turnovers here, I don't know about this team. It's tough to say. I thought they would seem like a legitimate danger team in the postseason, but I don't know. I don't know what you're going to get. Now, the Bengals are another story, too. No word of whether Andy Dalton is going to play in this game. More than likely, A.J. McCarron is going to get the start here. It does bring to mind now in terms of the odds makers. I mean, Pittsburgh they have them at 3 points. It could be a lot more less than that. It's really a huge toss-up here. But, obviously, I have to make a pick here. Both teams are pretty evenly matched in terms of offense. Defense-wise, Bengals probably have the better defense, but this game could not be any more tighter and much more of a toss-up here. So, who do I like in this game? I'm actually going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals here. I'll go with the Bengals in a squeaker. I think this probably may be the closest game in the whole wild card weekend. I like the way even though I know this is really the toughest pick out of the 4 games this weekend. But I'm going to go with the Bengals here. I think the Bengals will barely win this game. Pittsburgh will definitely keep up in this one. But I like Cincinnati in this one. I think the Bengals will win barely. Probably more or less by a field goal here. I think the Bengals will finally get off the schneid. They'll finally get a playoff win here. But it'll be a very, very, very tough game for them. They definitely will have to grind it out for a victory here. But I like Cincinnati in this one. The Bengals over the Steelers. All right, now let's go into the NFC. NFC wildcard game number 1. The Seahawks at the Vikings. Seahawks, 5-point favorite in this one. Minnesota, you win the division, but you're going to get a dangerous team in the wild card game. This is a game you did not want. Despite beating the Packers and getting that NFC North division. But this is going to be a tough game for Minnesota. Even though I will say that this game will probably be much closer than people will think. But Minnesota's offense is going to have to really step up here. They got beat. I mean, Seattle already played them in the regular season, and they got whooped. They got whooped in that game. Seattle's defense really did a great job on Minnesota's offense. And Minnesota's going to have to find a way, and I mean find a way to break that Seattle defense. Now, I know a lot of you are going to say, well, Seattle's defense is pretty banged up. Why are you saying break it? Look, their offense is going to have... Their offense really is going to have to rely. Look, Adrian Peterson hurt himself in that game against the Packers in Week 17. That injury is going to be a factor. We don't know if that injury could have been severe or not. Adrian Peterson is going to have to limp through that injury, and they're going to have to really rely on the running game and all, because knowing Seattle, if they stop Peterson, they're going to make Minnesota's going to have to really get it with Teddy Bridgewater in the passing game. For Russell Wilson, I know the offensive line is a question mark, but they've been able to get it together and coming into the playoffs now. They're a team to be reckoned with, and I would take them very seriously. No question that offense is getting together, but especially now with Lynch coming back, you have to get Lynch in that game. You got to get the running game going here. You especially right now, especially when you're in the playoffs now, you get that running game going, and I guarantee you it's going to be a long day for Minnesota's defense. You're obviously going to know what I'm going to go with. I'm definitely going to go with the Seattle Seahawks here. I think Minnesota's done. They're one and done. I mean, it's a great story for them to get in the postseason with so much confidence, but then you have to play a Seattle team that is really getting on a roll here. So yeah, I do not like the Seahawks, and I do not want to face Seattle in this. So no question about it. You got to go with the Seahawks here. Seahawks over the Vikings. And finally, NFC wildcard game number 2, the Green Bay Packers against the Washington Redskins. Packers are a 1-point favorite in this one. Probably the lines could be even by the end of the week, but I think it's just about right there. I have to agree with that. I think the Packers are definitely the favorites in this one. Now, I know Washington and Kirk Cousins are doing a pretty decent job in terms of their team, and they were lucky to win the division at 9-7. But the Packers, they're kind of like the Patriots here. They tend to turn it on come playoff time. And that's no joke. They seem to turn it on in the playoffs. But I know they're dealing with injuries, and I know their defense is struggling here. But Washington, it's been 3 years since their last playoff appearance. And I don't know how this Washington team is going to go up. Now, Green Bay's got the they got the experience. Aaron Rodgers knows what it is to play in the postseason. This is Kirk Cousins' first time there, and they'll be lucky even to keep up in this game. But I do expect this game to be pretty close. But I'm definitely going to go with the Packers here. I think the Packers, and with their experience and with Aaron Rodgers, they tend to turn it on in the playoffs. And there is no question I see them winning here, probably by 10 points. Washington, this team here, this is the first time in 3 years they've been in the postseason, and I don't know how they're going to be able to keep up with an experienced Packer team that's been in the postseason before. No question, I like the Packers in this one here. Packers over the Redskins. Alright guys, that wraps up my picks for the wildcard games. Tune in next week when I talk about my picks for the divisional round, and of course, the sportblog.blogspot.com for pretty much little bit of information, but obviously all of my intake is in this video, so my video is the only thing to watch here, and I'll see you guys all next weekend for the divisional round. Take care and enjoy your football weekend.